but that seems to be working now at smooth enough so we can get into the overview of the Zenbook UX390U. So I thought I'd start off with the classic. We've got a Core i5 laptop in here with half a terabyte of SATA 3 SSD and a Core i5 processor inside. It's the Zenbook UX390. There it is. It is absolutely not only super thin and looking really nice, but it's also weighing just 918 grams. It's well under 1 kilo there, and you can really feel that light and thin build quality there. So what we're going to do is going to have a look at whether this can perform. That's a real Core i5 processor in here. It's not a Y series processor. I'll just bring some of the specs into view for you from our review. There you go. So Core i5 U series, so based on a kind of ultrabook platform. So giving you more of a sort of real desktop or real laptop performance rather than the Y series, the Core i5 Y series, which is the old Core M5, which always had a few limitations in things like thermals. So when things got hot, things started to downclock. Now this one has a Core i5 dual core with a fan. So it's not a fanless device, and it's also not a touchscreen device. Despite that kind of glossy screen you can see there, I'm thinking every time that it should be a touch screen. Let me just log in for you using someone else's account on this, but we should be able to get in for you. There is the screen. It's a full HD screen, IPS. I'll give you some of the details on the screen performance later, but just to summarize, it's a pretty good screen. Out of the box, we had to calibrate it, but I'll give you some details later. Backlit, mega thin. You can just see the backlight shining through there. Mega thin keyboard, really, well, MacBook style, and this really does ape the MacBook. Couple of little interesting features on this one. If you just go in here, you can see we've got a fingerprint reader here. Now that works with Windows Hello to log you in instantly, and we tested, I think it was a Lenovo recently that had that, and it is a really nice feature to have on a Windows laptop, just to quickly log you in without any hassles. I really like that feature, and I hope we see that on more devices coming up. So let's built-in software, don't you hate it? Let's just go over the device and have a look at the ports. It shouldn't take too long because there aren't many ports, and there you go, there it is, the USB-C port there. Now you're questioning the problems, or you're at least raising the problems in your head of having a single USB-C port, but ASUS have done a great thing. They've included a mini docking port. So USB-C in, and you've got HDMI, USB 3 and a micro SD, or is that USB-C pass-through there. There's also a bigger docking station you can get from ASUS, but I think the key thing is here that dongle is included. Yes, you might have problems with dongles being lost, but it is USB-C. Prices have come down a lot, and I think most people are going to be having USB-C adapters on or around them pretty soon. So I don't think for 2007 that's going to be a major issue. And the fact that ASUS include it is a real bonus. Now I mentioned the Core i5 inside, and I mentioned that we've got a 512 gig SSD inside. It's a Samsung SATA 3 connected up to 500 megabytes per second. So it's not as fast as the PCIe or NVMe SSDs you can get out there, but it's pretty fast. I'll show you some of the SSD speeds in a minute. 8 gigs of RAM in here as well, and a 40 watt hour battery. We'll take a look at the battery figures in a minute as well. Overall, a really nice design. It's an aluminium magnesium on the bottom, said to be very strong. Of course, we haven't tested it, but I think you have to also think about that glass screen there as well. So this is not going to be, anything with a glass screen is not going to be too rugged. But having said that, no moving parts inside except the fan. Let's go straight onto the heat and noise. As I really just sit here with this idling, I can feel a little bit of warmth just around the back here, on the back there. But the heat and the noise out of this isn't too much to worry about. In our tests, we saw some really just nice noise figures and no real heating up on the keyboard area there. I want to go straight to some screen performance test figures that we've got from our full lab tests. Let me just scroll down to those and show you the overview of the screen there, and you'll see 355 nits is the maximum center brightness on here. On battery it was still 355, so it's not getting any darker under battery, which is really nice. 355, anything over 300 is pretty good. Anything towards 400 with a non-glossy screen means you can work pretty nicely outdoors. The fact that this isn't as high as some screens, and the fact that it's glossy means you will have a few problems outdoors, but indoors it's pretty good. As for the color, the deltas out of the box weren't great. We looked for under 5 to be a good figure and towards 2 to be an excellent figure out of the box. These were in the order of 6. Just look over 6.45 for the grayscales, 5.97 for the color after calibrating it. And if you go to the full notebook check review, the link is down in the YouTube notes. You'll find the ICC calibration file, which you can drop into your Zenbook, and it gives you a chance to, not all screens are calibrated the same, but this will give you a good chance of getting a better calibration on the screen. We saw down to 2 on the colors, and I think it was 3, high 3s on the grayscale. So that's really excellent scores on the colors. The other thing to note is the contrast on the screen, 1000 to 1, in fact 1183. Anything over 1000 to 1 is an excellent score in terms of contrast. So overall, not too bad. sRGB coverage was 89%, which is also a reasonable figure. We're looking for really around 100% of sRGB. Adobe RGB with much less than that, and we've got 58% on the Adobe RGB test. So overall, that screen, which is full HD and IPS, is really, really nice. So that's the first thing about the user interface here. Second thing are these keys. Now then, obviously, this is a low-throw keyboard. There is a click point, a definite click point, but it's something you're going to have to get used to. It's full size. It goes right to the edges here, and you can see that on the close-up, and that allows a little bit more comfort in use on the keyboard. Myself, I've had about 15-20 minutes use with it, kind of getting used to it. It's speeding up a little bit, but there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve on the keys there, so watch out for that. There's more detail from our reviewer Sebastian in the full review about how he felt about the keyboard. My opinion is it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve to get used to that. Down to the touchpad then, really what I call slippery, soft, silky touchpad, which for some people isn't good. I found I was moving a little bit too far on this relatively small touchpad than I felt I should be, but the fact you've got the fingerprint reader there is pretty good. Again, getting used to it. So screen, we're getting a really nice sort of 9 out of 10 score for this category device. Keyboard down at 8.7. In fact, if you go to the end of the review, you'll see the breakdown of the scores, and you'll see the scores that we gave to the keyboard in our full review. Now, obviously ports is an issue as well on this. I already mentioned the docking dongle, which with the HDMI out allows you to really use this as a desktop. Now, the important thing is it's a proper Core i5 inside and not a Core i5 Y series, which is a fairly restricted or performance capped version of the Core i5. It used to be called the Core M5, is now called the Core i5 Y series, and that means that this is fairly free to ramp up and stay at a fairly high clock rate. In our load tests, Cinebench on the CPU, we managed to see that staying at a high clock rate, so that was turbo clocking all the way through. When we got to our full load test, which is a very heavy CPU and simultaneous graphics test, we did see it down clock right down to half its normal speed. So what I will say is under gaming, you might not get too much gaming out of this. I'll show you some scores in a minute. And under things like video rendering, expect this to clock down fairly heavily after 5 to 10 minutes. A bit like the Surface Pro 3 did, and like a few of the others do. I think the X360 from HP also does that as well. So if you're looking at long-term high performance, this is probably not the answer to your desires and dreams. But anyway, for office, for short-term photo editing, video editing, of course, no problem. It's just that rendering out of full HD or a 4K video could be a little bit longer than you expect. If you're working in full HD or 4K on videos, I recommend a quad core with a discrete graphics card. Anyway, let's just go to some of the CPU marks here. You'll see it sits up there. There we go. It sits up there on that's the Core i5 there. Just above that are Core i7s. Now this is a Kaby late generation processor. We're putting it up against the previous Skylake generation of the Core i7. So it's coming in at around a low Core i7 Skylake performance figure on this single CPU benchmark. When we get to the multi GPU benchmarks, it drops down a little bit more. 314 is not too bad. And if you look at that Aspire S13 down there with the old Core i7 Skylake processor, is coming in lower performance than this Zenbook. So we're starting to get a picture that this is a pretty reasonably powerful and lightweight Zenbook. Zenbooks have always been at the edge of good design, thermal design and performance design, and this Zenbook 3 UX390 is no different. And in fact, when you consider that it's not a Y series and it's a Core i5, there's something to be said for it as a standard laptop that you can connect to a monitor and use all day long in the office. Now, price. This configuration, Core i5 with a ½ terabyte and 8 gigs of RAM, is 1,500 euros. This is certainly not expensive. The MacBook comes in at 1,600 for a similar sort of performance level, a similar sort of specification level, slightly higher performance level. The MacBook's always a little bit more optimized in terms of performance. Obviously, they have the opportunity to optimize their drivers to one set of hardware, whereas the drivers that are on here are generally for multiple versions of the platform and the graphics. So, but amongst Windows devices, this is a really, really great option. I talked about gaming, and I'll just scroll down to a couple of gaming figures we did. As you can see, there's not much green on that. And when there's no green, it means not good gaming. Entry level, maybe things like Tomb Raider, first generation. We didn't check that one. Rise of the Tomb Raider, the latest generation, which is a really heavy one. Forget it. Dirt Rally at low settings. BioShock Infinite at low settings. Some of the older games, definitely you'll be able to get something out of those. But don't expect this to be a gaming system. You're going to need something like Iris Pro graphics to get a little bit more green in that, or a discrete graphics card to really give you some entry-level PC gaming. Let's go back to the SSD. There are the performance results on the SSD. Peak figure on the read speed there is 507 megabytes per second. That is about all you'll get out of a SATA 3 SSD. I also want to mention that inside the SSD you can actually access Torx screws on here, and you can actually swap the SSD out, but the interface remains SATA 3, so you won't get much more than we've got here in our performance test results. 4K read and writes, a very important figure for general uses. 4K writes over 10 megabytes per second start to get acceptable. We've got 28 and 28 on the read, and on the write 69.78. So overall, that SSD really good, and you're going to get a nice bit of storage there as well. Really good to see that. Now I want to show you a couple of figures we got on our heat test. There are the heat test figures. They don't really mean much, but there you can see where on the device it gets hot, and it is around here. As I'm touching it around, yes, around this area here. Does that relate to the, yes, it does relate to the actual picture, so that's good. And then obviously on the bottom side, more towards this side of the keyboard. let me just switch to the actual figures. Under maximum load, 40.6, 41.6 on the top, on the bottom 39.3. So around 40 degrees. That's not hot, that's not a major problem. Remember, skin temperature is 37, 38. So you're only a few degrees above skin temperature there. So it's not really going to be too much of a problem. It's actually quite impressive what ASUS have done in terms of thermals here. This thing is 14 millimeters thick with a Core i5 in and a fan. That's actually very, very impressive. Speakers, not good. That's one of the negative points we got out of the review, the speakers. And moving on to the battery life now. You'll see in our tests a really nice 6 hours, 37 minutes of Wi-Fi serving time. So on that 40 watt hour battery, 6.5 hours is really not bad. Big Buck Bunny, full HD of course, this at 100 nits, 150 nits, sorry. That's a sort of living room comfortable screen brightness, aircraft cabin screen brightness, over 6 hours as well on that as well. So that's nice. Load figures, they're always under 2 hours. 1 to 2 hours is your standard. And idle, which would be maybe typing. Get 14 hours of typing out of this if you're not connected to the Wi-Fi. But we see figures over 10 hours a lot on that test. So don't take too much notice of that. Wi-Fi surfing and Big Buck Bunny are the two key figures. Right, I want to go through the pros and cons. Let me just see if I can bring that into the screen there. Doing pros and cons. There we go. On the right hand side there. So you'll see it's thin and light. Obviously that's the key thing here. ASUS Zenbook UX390U is incredibly light and incredibly thin. Nice chassis, good build quality. It seems well fitted all the way around. 1 day runtime, well, 6 hours of usage. 8 hours was usually the figure that we used to talk about 1 day runtime. So I'd argue with our reviewer there that it's not really one day runtime, although of course you could claim that this will run for 14 hours no problem when you're not using it. Performance without throttling. If you look at our test, you'll see under full load, graphics and CPU, we did get it to throttle, but that's really abnormal usage scenario. So for normal use, no throttling. That's really, really good. Firm keystroke, but I will add again, get used to it. You'll need to spend some time with this keyboard. It is full size, it is backlit. You'll need to spend some time with it to really get the best out of the keyboard. There's a learning curve to consider there. If you're doing a lot of typing, especially if you're someone that goes down like that on the keys, myself, I'm a very shallow typist. I'm very used to low throw keys, so that's not actually too bad for me. But bear that in mind when you're looking at it. Microphone recordings were good. I haven't tested that. And the fingerprint login, Windows Hello, is really, really worth having, and I want to see this more on devices in 2017. Smartphones have it at 200 euros now. A laptop that costs 1,500, a laptop that costs 1,000, even a laptop that costs 500 should have a quick fingerprint login. That's something that's needed for 2017. The mini dock in the box is a real advantage. You can also say there's a disadvantage having USB-C 3.1 Rev 2 there, but I think it's a great option to have a little docking port supplied with the device, so you don't have to go out and spend 30 euros and wait another couple of days after you realize that you're not getting this dongle with the system. Have a look at the full review, because we also took a look at or at least took an overview look, I don't think we had one in the test, at the big docking station. Which gives you a lot more ports out, including VGA. So that might be one you could use at the office, and this one, something you could leave at home for your office at home. Now then, cons. We just talked about one. Not many ports. The webcam, pretty crap. Don't worry about the webcam, but I guess for Skype it's going to be okay. Get some lights going and you'll sort that problem out without any trouble at all. The shallow key travel I've mentioned, and that learning curve, as you look at it, you're going to need to think about that. Weak click pad feedback, that's actually something I didn't mention. There is a little problem with the click on the keypad. It is really sub-millimeter click, and it's a little bit squashy. There's really not a lot of character in that mouse pad there. Double tap to click is your option, so if you use the double tap to click, shouldn't be a problem. But if you're looking for mouse buttons, be aware that you'll have to get used to that, or you have to learn how to use double tap to click, or get an external mouse. Speakers, yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Harman Kardon, dual speakers, big feature, they're terrible. It's just mini PC territory speakers. I can't imagine how wide or how big the drivers are in this. Probably 10mm, you're not going to get any bass out of it. Clear sound, yes, not bass. So overall then, our reviewer, Sebastian Jensch, gave it 85%. What does that mean? That means it's actually one of the best sub coming through for you. Right, let's just fix that video. Obviously something for me to do after this live stream is to get back to, there we go, is to get back to testing this software. I'm using XSplit, by the way, which usually works an absolute treat, especially with the overlays and that sort of stuff. And unfortunately that's not working right. Maybe I've got too much going on that. Right, I'm going to head towards, oh no, I just want to give you a couple more of the overview scores. I said I was going to give the keyboard a 7 out of 10. Sebastian gave it 87%. It's a matter of whether you're used to these small keyboards, really. The backlight adds points. The fact that it's full size for such a small device adds points. The low click distance is a problem, but there is a definite click on there. I think you're going to get used to it. Battery 88%, that's excellent for this category, and the chassis 91%. Camera 24%, 50% for connectivity. I'll actually give it a little bit more than that myself, based on the fact that you're getting the dongle included in the package, so that's a real advantage there. Right, I'm going to go over to YouTube now and check out some of your questions, see if I can answer them. Thanks for joining the stream. There's 15 of you are watching it now. The idea is not really to have this going out live and have you watching it live, but it's basically so that I can get this done live, get it out to you as quickly as possible, because I have another device here on my left. Oh, that's one other thing. They give you a nice Folio package with it. You don't actually need to run up to your colleagues and steal an envelope just to show off how thin it is, because you get an envelope with it. This is the device I'm testing next. The GL702V Republic of Gamers ASUS device. It's a gaming laptop with a quad core in and a nice big NVIDIA GTX. And which GTX has it got inside? Is it a 1070? I don't know. I'm not sure what graphics card is inside this, but we'll have a look. The full review's already up, by the way, so if you're interested in that, the full review's up on notebookcheck.net. Right. It's so great when you get to the end of a live stream and there's no sound. Ah, you've got some sound now. Right, so sorry about the sound at the beginning of that. Sound now, I can finally hear now. I want one. Is some electronics noise in idle mode. Does it have electronics noise in idle mode? You mean buzz from screen or capacitor buzz or inductor buzz? Let's go in and tell you. Yeah. Sounds like a really quiet hard drive spinning around and searching. Yep, there is some buzz in there. Not huge. I've got my ear right on it and I can just about hear that buzz. So yes, there is some buzz in there. Yeah, shame that screen isn't touchscreen. I am touching it all the time. It just looks like a touchscreen because it's kind of almost edge to edge on the screen there, and it's a shame that it's not a touchscreen. Okay. Okay, modified penguin. The dongle is only with the i7 version. Is that true? Is that true? We've got the Core i5 version here, and we've got the dongle with it, and it is in the package. I wonder whether there are different versions around the world for this one that do and don't have the dongle. The dongle was in this part here, a very small little package hidden away underneath. I wonder if reviewers maybe haven't even found it yet. But certainly on this Core i5 version, the dongle was included. Of course, for a review model, it might be that ASUS put the review model in. Put the dongle in with the review model. I don't know. Linux compatibility. Kaby Lake processor. Graphics, Intel 620 graphics. I wouldn't really hold out for trouble-free Linux installation. Having said that, this isn't something like an Intel Atom-based device. There are hardware components for audio, for video acceleration, including encoding and decoding, and of course audio encoding and decoding. I'm not sure all those are going to work under Linux, but it depends what you want out of your Linux build. Right, that is the review. Sorry about the fallout on the video there, and if the audio was a problem, I apologize at the beginning. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the YouTube comments section below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I have got that ROG video coming up soon, and that will be up as a standard video, I expect, because I don't think I can handle doing a gaming video live. That's just not my thing. Subnotebooks, no problem. Gaming, we'll have to take that one offline. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next Notebook Check Tech Review.